Hey guys, welcome back. This is Not Lammers of Invoked 101, and today we're taking a look at Endymion. So this is actually a deck that I think we posted about on Instagram. We picked this deck up back when it first came out, and I didn't post any pictures about it. I didn't do the deck profile for it because I didn't have everything I needed for it, but now I have everything I need for it. We got the box of Dark Neostorm, and we got the some stuff in the mail. Before we get actually into it, big shout out to Mio's girlfriend Selena from TCG Card Cash. She hooked me up with some cards I needed to finish up this deck. And of course, big shout out to Malia for hooking us up with the Dark Neostorm box, so I have the Pendulum Halts for the deck. But with that said and that out of the way, before we actually get into the deck profile, down in the description there's a link to our Patreon. Anything you back us with on there goes right back in the deck profiles. And down in the description is also a link to our Discord. If you want to talk to us, that is the way to get to us. So we're going to move these spells and the extra deck off to the side. We're going to zoom in just a touch, and we're going to talk about the main deck monsters. So the first one we're going to talk about, of course, is the main man of the deck. This is Endymion, the Mighty Master of Magic. He's a Pendulum Scale 8 and apparently has the most text on any card printed so far, which is a little crazy. His effect up here is basically that you can remove 6 spell counters from anywhere to special summon him, and oh boy. So I'm just gonna read him off, and I'm kind of going to do that for all the cards. You're gonna have to kind of like bear with me because a lot of these just have a ton of text. You can remove 6 spell counters from your field, special summon this card from your Pendulum Zone, then count the number of cards you control that can have a spell counter, destroy up to that many cards on the field, and if you do, place spell counters on this card equal to the number of cards destroyed. You can only use this effect of Endymion once per turn. That's just his Pendulum effect. His monster effect is once per turn when a spell or trap is activated. Quick effect, you return 1 card you control with a spell counter to the hand, and if you do, negate the activation, and if you do that, destroy it. Then you can place the same number of spell counters on this card that the return card had, and then its other effect is while this card has a spell counter, your opponent cannot target it with card effects, also cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, and when this card with the spell counter is destroyed by battle, you can add 1 normal spell from your deck to your hand. So that that whole last part where it's like if it's destroyed by battle or whatever leads into the effects of some of the other new Endymion monsters. Because if you don't know, there's 4 new Endymion monsters, himself included, so there's 3 others we're going to look at, and each of them do something when they're destroyed with a spell counter, and each of them have a way to special summon themselves from the Pendulum Zone. I'm going to try to paraphrase the other ones. So each of the other ones require you to remove 3 spell counters to special summon them from the Pendulum Zone, and then each of them has an effect when they're special summoned from the Pendulum Zone. So this is Reflection of Endymion. Her Pendulum effect is, whoa, she is shiny on that screen. There we go. That's not, oh, whatever. Anyway, her effect is that you can remove 3 spell counters from her, and special summon her from the hand along with special summon her from the Pendulum Zone along with a card that can have a spell counter placed on it from the hand. And then you get to place 1 spell counter on each, and then her monster effect is if this card is special summoned, you can target 1 card your opponent controls and 1 card you control with a spell counter, except this card, return that card to the hand, and return your opponent's card and your card to the hand. Then place the same number of spell counters on this card that the returned card had. When this card with a spell counter is destroyed by battle, you can add 1 Endymion card from your deck to your hand. So pretty good. Being able to search Endymion stuff is pretty neat, but it has to die by battle. And then we have 3 Servant of Endymion. This personally is my favorite one. I think she's honestly the best one. Her effect is that you remove 3 spell counters from her, special summon her from the Pendulum Zone, and 1 monster from the deck that you can place a spell counter on. And if you do, place 1 spell counter on each of them. And then her monster effect is something that I don't know because I don't really read it. Oh, also, you can only special summon each of the other Endymion cards once per turn. Each of them features that clause. So you can't like special summon them from the Pendulum Zone and then pendulum summon them back. Like you only get 1. It says this card with a spell counter can attack directly once per opponent's turn. Quick effect, you can discard a card, place a spell counter on each card you control that can have a spell counter on it. If this card in the monster zone is destroyed, you can place this card in your Pendulum Zone, then place the same number of spell counters on it that it had as a monster. So a pretty good effect overall. And last one that we play the last Endymion card we play is Double Magister, and this one has the same effect as the others, except it special summons himself from the zone and one from the extra deck face up. Then his other effect, his monster effect is when this card declares an attack, place a spell counter on it. Once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can move 3 spell counters from your field, special summon 1 monster from your deck that you can place a spell counter on. If this card is in the monster zone and is destroyed, you can place this card in your pendulum zone, then place the same number of spell counters on it that it had as a monster. And you can see that they're all 2s and 8s. All the Endymion stuff. That's actually it for the Endymion guys. We only play the, what is it? So it's 4 plus 6, so there's only 10 of them. So there's only 10 Endymion monsters in the deck. But there's plenty of other cards that support these guys. Next up we have the Mythical Beast engine, which starts with 2 Cerberus. His monster effect is that he gets to banish something, and I think it's like remove 6 spell counters from your field, banish something, and then he gains attack equal to the banished monster. And then he has another effect that lets him, when he's in the scale, if you have no other card in the scale, you can blow himself up and search a Mythical Beast. And then we have Triple Jackal King, who is super important to this deck. Like, Jackal King is amazing in Endymion because this lets you remove, what is it? Each time a spell card is activated, place 2 spell counters on it. When that spell resolves, once per turn, when an opponent's monster effect, quick effect, when an opponent activates a monster effect, quick effect, you can remove 2 spell counters from your field, negate the activation, and destroy it. So yeah, so he's a monster negate for 2 spell counters from anywhere, which is pretty awesome. And I think that's the good part about the, unlike the Endymion guys who need to have the spell counters removed from them, these guys can remove it from anywhere, although the Endymion field spell kind of nullifies that. But this guy's pendulum effect, pendulum effect is that when he's in the scale and you have no other thing in your scale, you can blow him up and special summon 1 face up Mythical Beast monster. So basically it just gets you out the Cerberus. And lastly, we have Garuda, which is a MST from the pendulum scale, and then it also gets spell counters each time a spell card is resolved. And it says when your opponent normal or special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you can remove 3 spell counters from your field, special summon this card from your hand, then return the opponent's summoned monster to the hand. You can only use each effect of Garuda once per turn. So this is a nice little hand trap for the deck to kind of just bounce stuff back to the hand. But that is it for the Mythical Beast section. And lastly, we have kind of the auxiliary stuff. So this is Magical Abductor. I play 2 of her. I really think this card is just gorgeous. But I never use her monster effect. She gets to like remove 3 spell counters from herself and then search a level 1 spellcaster or something like that. But her other effect in the pendulum scale, which is what you're usually using this card for, is you can remove 3 spell counters from her and add a pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. But and it says each time a spell card resolves, you place 1 spell counter on it. So there's that. 2 Fairy Tale Lunas. When this card is normal summoned, you can search out an 1850 spellcaster from your deck, which the Reflection of Endymion has 1850, so that's a nice little piece of searching. And then it also has the ability to bounce stuff to the hand, including, so it basically has the effect to bounce 1 card your opponent controls to the hand along with itself, but they can negate it by sending another copy of it from the main deck. And then after that, we have the Destrudo Darkworm engine, which is double Destrudo, 1 Darkworm, and specifically for this deck, 1 Gate 0. And the reason you're playing Gate 0 in this one, and you do need to play Gate 0 in this deck, is because it's a 0 scale. You don't want to be using the 13 scale, you want the 0. Just because this is generic and doesn't lock you out of pendulum summoning, this one will do the trick way more. So that's that. And that's it for the monsters. So a few different engines, a few different things to just keep the deck running, but pretty good. Next up for spells, we do have some spells in the deck, and that is triple spell power mastery. This says add 1 Endymion card from your deck to your hand, then you can count the number of spell power mastery and spell power grasp you control and or have in your graveyard, then place that many spell counters among cards you control that you can place a spell counter on. You can only activate 1 spell power mastery per turn. So basically what it does is just loads up stuff with spell counters. It's pretty good. So it basically gives 2 spell counters and a search on activation. Then it gives more as the more you activate. After that, we have 2 Magical Citadel of Endymion, which gets a spell counter each time a spell card resolve or activated. And then if a card that uses spell counters would remove spell counters from itself, you can remove it from this instead. And then if this card on the field would be destroyed, you can remove a spell counter from it instead. Also, if a card with spell counters on it is destroyed, you can take its spell counters and put it on this card instead. And of course, to play this, we do have Devil Terraforming. After that, to boost our Destrudo engine, we have 2 Dragon Shrines to Foolish the Dark Worm and get it on the field as quick as possible. And after that, we have our draw cards, Double Pot of Desires, just because a lot of the stuff is played at 3 or 2. Really the only thing that you're going to have to do before Desires is Foolish the Dark Worm and get him on the board. That's about it. Next up, we have the new card. This is Pendulum Halt. So this card's really cool. This is an awesome draw card for Pendulums, and when this card was revealed in the manga, I was totally scared of it coming out. Honestly, I'm not as nervous about it anymore, but it says if you have 3 or more face-up pendulum monsters with different names in your extra deck, draw 2 cards. You cannot add cards from the deck to your hand for the rest of this turn after this card resolves. The original version said you could continue drawing and searching, so you can't search, can't draw, you just can't do anything after this card is activated. So you want to do Desires before Pendulum Halt, so yeah, pretty cool card. And then lastly is a card that I added simply because I thought it would be a neat card to add, and I'm going to explain it when I show it to you guys, and that's Triple MST. So why 3 MST? Well, it's a quick play spell card, it's a spell card, and it's back row removal. This deck has like 0 back row removal outside of Garuda, and you're kind of playing this for the same reason that Sky Striker plays it. It gets a spell, and unlike Sky Striker, which gets like extra effects for having spells in the graveyard, this one, it's to put extra spell counters on board. And so not only do you get to wipe out a piece of back row, you also get a spell counter possibly on your opponent's turn. And it's just, I thought it was an overall nice choice to add to the deck. I know it's not the greatest thing, you could always play something else over this, but with Mystic Mine out now and a few other things that are running around, this is definitely a nice card to have in the deck, I think personally, and I'm gonna keep playing it just because I think it's a good card to have in the deck. A little old school, but I think it's a nice addition to it. So that's it for the spell cards. So that's it for the main deck as well. So we're gonna move into the extra deck. We're playing 1 Heavy Metal Foes Electromite. This card lets you, when it's link summoned, you get to take a card from your deck and place it in your extra deck face up. And then it also has the effect to pop a card you control and add 1 card from your pendulum from your extra deck face up to your hand. And if you popped a pendulum scale, or if the card was in your pendulum zone when it was destroyed, you get to draw a card as well. So pretty, just overall great pendulum support. 1 Zephyr Metaltron. Basically, after you pendulum summon, or if you can do it before you pendulum summon, you make this guy, do your stuff, make this guy, and then you pendulum summon to all 3 zones that he opens up for you, which is pretty nice. Then we have Triple Daybreaker, the Magical Warrior. So basically what this guy, you don't have to play 3. I honestly only recommend playing 1. I'm literally just playing 3 just for filler. But this is your spell counter link monster. This is the spell counter link monster, and he needs 2 spellcaster monsters. And his effect is, if this card is link summoned, you can place 1 spell counter on it. It gains 300 attack for each spell counter on it, and you can only activate each of the following effects of Daybreaker once per turn. It says his first effect is if a spellcaster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, place a spell counter on it, and then its other effect is remove 2 spell counters from this card, target 1 card on the field, and destroy it. So pretty neat card overall. That's it for the links. We do play 2 synchros. We play 1 Arcanite Magician because it's a level 7, so you can make it with Destrudo, and it can continuously remove spell counters from anywhere on the field and just keep popping stuff just over and over and over. If your opponent doesn't have an out to it, they just got their board wiped by a 2400 monster. After that, we play 1 Nirvana High Paladin. So this guy also has an insane amount of text. To shorten it, what it says, what his monster effect is that you can use a pendulum summoned pendulum spellcaster as a tuner monster for its synchro summon, and if it's synchro summoned using a pendulum spellcaster tuner, you get to add any card from your graveyard to your hand, and then if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you get to have your opponent's life points. He does need a synchro monster to synchro summon it. I mean, he needs 1 tuner and 1 non-tuner synchro monster. And then he has a pendulum effect, which I'm not quite sure what it is. It says, oh, and if he dies by battle or card effect, you get to place him in your pendulum scale. It says, if a pendulum monster you control attacks for that battle, it cannot be destroyed by battle. Also, you take no battle damage at the end of the battle step. At the end of the damage step, if a pendulum monster you control attacked all monsters your opponent control, lose attack equal to the attacking monster's attack until the end of this turn. So it's overall just a good card, but he is a little difficult to summon. Basically, you just need to make it with this and then pendulum summon and stuff. It's pretty cool when you can get him out. He is a win more card. After that, we have one Norito for the negate, although I don't know exactly why you'd want to go into Norito over just leaving the Jackal on the board. With Endymion, you can achieve similar things. And then one Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon. I know this isn't the greatest extra deck. I'm still working on my extra deck, but definitely the must-haves for this are Heavy Metal Foe, the Metaltron, definitely one Daybreaker, and then the Arcanite Magician is super necessary. I like the Nirvana High Paladin just because I think he's funny, and I think it's nice to kind of just like dunk on people with him. But that's it. That's it for my Endymion deck. I think it's a pretty okay deck. I've enjoyed playing it. I enjoy this deck a lot more than I thought I was going to when I first put it together, but I had been looking forward to it for quite some time, and I'm super glad to have this deck in the collection. I do want to hear you guys' thoughts, because I know that there is a lot of different Endymion variants. There's the Pendulum Magician variant, there's the Amorphage variant, the Zephyr version. There's so many different versions of this deck. I want to know what you guys think about the more pure version that I got going on here. But anyways, before I close out, there is a link in our description to the Patreon if you want to back us on that. Anything you back us with on there goes right back into deck profiles. There's also a link to our Discord if you want to chat with us. That's all down in the description. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.